Hello there! Today, I'm going to talk to you about how to use silence, particularly how it relates to writing crime fiction. Silence can be very useful in a story, and to show you how, I will get right to it, starting with, as always, number one. Silence creates tension. Sometimes even better than action. That's because it can draw the reader right in. With a quiet interrogation room, a suspect that won't answer the questions, or a house that's too still can be more unsettling than weapons being fired, or action, or anything else. The idea being that tension lives in what might happen. For a scene example, we do this. The gun went off. Then nothing. No scream, no sirens, and no running footsteps. Just the echo fading down the alley and the smell of burnt powder hanging in the air. Pretty cool, eh? So you can see, silence marks the gravity of the moment. It slows the pace deliberately. And it forces the reader to absorb what just happened. Number two, silence can reveal more than dialogue. In crime fiction, a character's silence is often a choice. This could be a witness going mute, or a suspect dodging a question and a detective refusing to explain a hunch. All of this can expose fear, guilt, and control. Your idea here is the silence leaks character motivation. For this example, close your eyes and listen to me narrate the scene. Where the situation is, a first officer arrives after a thing has been committed. And the scene example is, the apartment was silent, except for the hum of the refrigerator. No television, no footsteps from the neighbors or crying children or any other sound you would expect in an apartment building. The officer stepped over the threshold and felt it immediately. The wrong kind of quiet. The kind that meant someone had left in a hurry and the surrounding people do not want to be drawn into the whatever happened. So you see this is that silence becomes an emotional clue. The absence of normal life signals danger. And you don't need exposition in here because the reader feels it. And you can open your eyes if you haven't already, or if you didn't close them in the first place, because number three is you can use it as a power move. This is a classic interrogation trick that cops use. Sometimes they drop a picture of the crime scene right in front of a suspect to see how they react. If they're repulsed, maybe they didn't do it. If they are really interested, maybe they did. Or they might ask a question and then say nothing. Let the silence fill the room until the suspect breaks that quiet, which is often a mistake. This will work very well in fiction as it does in real life criminal investigations. As an example, let's have an interrogation room silence. The detective slid the photo across the table. "When did you last see her?" he asked. The suspect stared at the laminate surface of the table. His jaw tightened. The clock on the wall ticked once, then twice, and maybe a third and fourth and fifth time. "I asked you a question," the detective said quietly. The suspect swallowed. "Tuesday." However, the silence here pressures the suspect into responding. The ticking clock emphasizes discomfort, and the detective doesn't rush to fill the gap. he stays in control. Or she, or they, or whatever the case may be. Number 4, silence highlights emotional impact after violence. This will give readers space to feel the consequences. You can let silence mark the emotional weight of what happened. This will help you show that everyone reacts to things in a different way. Some people may break down, fall to their knees and in anguish and crying their eyes out. Others might scream with curse words, bleep, 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 bleep. Have to censor those out in case children are watching. While for the purposes of this video, let's have someone sit in stunned silence. An example here is like they're like this, huh? And then the detective asked her, "Was he dead when you called?" She brought her hands to her face as she breathed in shallow, short breaths. When the body bag was put on the stretcher, her head moved to each side once. Then she nodded. You can see in her reaction that maybe the person wasn't yet dead when she called, or maybe she didn't know and just didn't bother to check. Or maybe she was just in shock as, well, happens, doesn't it, sometimes? Number 5, environmental silence signals danger. The stillness can be a warning sign. A deadly quiet alley, or a house where even the fridge isn't humming and maybe a mouse wasn't even stirring. The silence can be a harbinger of danger before the characters realize it, an omen that says you're doomed. For an example on this, riding the elevator to the 10th floor, it didn't register with Janet yet that the office did not have the usual music playing in the background, because she usually was able to hear it when she's riding the elevator. The boss always insisted on having some lively reggae music playing in the background. He wanted an uplifted mood to, well, it's maybe a feng shui thing, an audio feng shui if that exists anyway. So you see, has something bad happened? Or has Janet been the first one to the office today, even earlier than her boss? Maybe she was gunning for a raise, promotion, or anything along those lines. Number 6, it can be a form of withheld information. You can use silence structurally, as in an end of a chapter on a cliffhanger, or cutting away before a response. This will keep your readers turning the pages because they absolutely want to know that key piece of information. Or if you do it too many, they may just take your book and wing right out the goddamn window. For this example, let's do a detective's internal silence. The pieces fit too neatly, and that's when his thoughts stopped. No theories, no justifications, just the sudden crushing certainty that he'd been looking in the wrong direction the whole time. So you see here, it lets the reader experience the realization. There is insight without explanation, and the silence signals a turning point in the story and the investigation. Number 7, it shows trauma or moral conflict. This could be a detective who stops talking, a narrator who can't process what they've done, or a witness who has been traumatized. Like the narrator being if you have a third-person narrator, or their whatever they call it, especially useful in psychological theories, the non-trustworthy narrator or whatever. And, well, an example here for a traumatized witness. You heard the argument, didn't you? She nodded, but said nothing. Her eyes flicked toward the hallway. Up to the ceiling, maybe out the window too. I didn't do anything, she whispered. But she still didn't answer the question. Here you see that the reader might keep guessing. What Did she hear or see? Or is she now a suspect? And is she guilty? The whole scene complicates the investigation in a natural, not contrived way, so that way it keeps your reader guessing and makes your story a little bit longer so you can get more page reads in Kindle Unlimited, possibly. Number 8, silence makes dialogue stand out. You don't want every scene full of banter. You're a wienerhead, you're a loser, you're a goofball, whatever the case may be, because nothing will stand out if you do. If you use strategic silence, the next line of dialogue will hit harder, and that's even more so if it's a confession, lie, or threat. This gives contrast to your scenes and your stories and everything else. For this example, let's use threatening silence. You understand what happens if you talk, he said. He waited. The silence stretched long enough to feel intentional, and she nodded with her eyes closed. As you can see, here the silence is intimidating. It makes the unspoken threat feel heavier because we know what is going to happen if she talks, don't we? Number 9. Silence can sometimes implicate innocent characters. A witness who stays silent might do so out of fear, loyalty, or both, but they might inadvertently throw suspicion on themselves, even if they're innocent. So, for this example, we'll do this. Sharon refused to look at the crime scene photos and the cell tower records that showed whose phone was in the area. There wasn't anything she felt she needed to see or answer for. Well, the cop asked, looking at her. She shook her head as she scoffed at the detective. Well, unless you have anything on me, I'm leaving and won't ever talk to you again without a lawyer. So, why didn't she even look at the evidence that could show someone's guilt? Well, we'll have to find out. Write that story and find out. Number 10, trust your reader. Silence can be respect sometimes. Because if you over-explain or you do info dumping, it will kill the suspense in your story. Silence respects the reader's ability to connect the dots and shows confidence in your storytelling. It can also give your story a haunting aftertaste. Something like this. Finally, she was free. She looked out over the horizon. Or was she? So there you have it. My 10 tips for how to use silence in a crime fiction story. Remember, if done right, silence is loaded, not empty. The better you get at it, the louder the story becomes. I hope you enjoyed the video and that it helps you with your own writing. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and check out the video that's coming up. It'll be about info dumping. Anyway, have a great day and a great week, and I will see you in 7 days. So long, everybody.